I'm Harrison.
I'm Jordan.
Well, I'm Harrison.
I'm fucking Jordan.
All right!
And we're the Grief Burrito podcast. Let us be your unnatural Sherpa guides on this existential plane of mountainous game and movie exploration.
And don't forget about that spookiness that lives within us all, but mainly in you, you spooky bitch. How dare I'm offended. We've been voted the best podcast to listen to by many.
By many, that means a few. That's more than one. Results may vary.
We'll see you on the next episode of Grief
Burrito, yeah!
Yes!
Welcome to this week's episode of Fat, Drunk, and Stupid. I'm Rob, with you as always. And Arielle has returned for round 2. Hello, Arielle. How are you?
Yay! I'm good. I thought that I started drinking too late and that I was going to get on and be sober and then become drunk. But, as I started talking, I realized, no, I'm already drunk.
All those fears have been washed away.
Yeah, but it's got me in my head because, I'm a little out and stuff now. But I was home alone having a wine or two for 4 months. And I'm just wondering how many times I was drunk before, but I didn't really know it because I wasn't talking to anyone.
That's always a good self-sobriety test. Even if you're by yourself, just start talking.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. If we go into lockdown again, I will know.
I hope we do. I hope we stay. I hope we stay in lockdown. I like lockdown.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
it.
you have your whole above ground pool.
That's right. I'm a baller. Remember?
I do. No. I asked you if you were a baller, and then you.
You asked me that because I said I eat steak 3 times a week.
Yes. But I have not eaten meat since I was 20, so I don't know how much meat costs. We've already established this.
Yeah, we don't have to go over your rhubarb habits again. It's well documented. What are you drinking?
It's a combination of White Claw and Bud Light Seltzer today.
You mixing them together in the same cup?
No, I just... So I've been on a quest, actually.
Now this I gotta hear.
Well, so the kind of White Claw I like is cherry White Claw, and they've been kind of hard to find in my neighborhood.
I see.
And for a while, I thought that they were having problems on the manufacturing level, but I checked with some of my other friends who liked White Claw, and they're like, in my neighborhood, we have plenty of cherry. We just can't find grapefruit.
Oh, I see.
So I think it was a distribution problem related to the pandemic. Nobody talks about us White Claw drinkers. We're the real victims of everything.
The real victims is the White Claw supply chain.
Yeah. Exactly. So I was trying the Bud Light seltzers, which honestly, they're basically the same. But then I randomly checked a bodega near my house, and they exclusively had cherry White Claw. I think they've bought up all the cherry White Claw in the West Village. So I have.
Is that where you live, the West Village?
Yes, that's where I am. I don't even really know if I was. So I'm subletting a friend's apartment, or I'm house sitting for a friend.
You mean squatting?
And I was. No, she knows I'm here.
Oh, okay. It's called trespassing. I don't know if you know.
Squatters' rights.
That's right. That happened one time when I was a cop. This guy came home to his house, and these people were living in it.
How long had he been gone?
Like 2 months.
Oh, wow.
But he owned the house, and he was out in California with a family thing or something.
Right.
And then he comes back home, and he calls the police, and he says, there's people in my house, and they won't let me in. These people were living in there while this guy was
So I used to live in Amsterdam. I don't know if we ever talked about that.
Talked about what? Amsterdam?
That I lived in Amsterdam.
We did.
Yeah, but in the so there still is a housing shortage in Amsterdam. Because a lot of people live in the Netherlands and they don't really allow like more building.
They just live in chateaus.
Houseboats.
Houseboats.
Like that's a big thing in Amsterdam, yeah. But like in the 70s, like if you were out of your apartment for like more than 2 weeks,
You lost it.
yeah, people moved in.
That's
and like you
crazy.
could not get them out. So you can still, it like doesn't happen that often anymore, but you can still get like, well, this is less true since Airbnb has been invented,
Mm-hmm.
but before Airbnb, so a squat in Dutch
Yeah.
is crock. Crock, yeah.
Like a crock pot?
I mean, it's spelled differently, but yeah, that's how it's pronounced.
Or like croc, like the very fashionable sandal?
I think those are homophones, so yeah,
Homophones.
they sound the same.
Do they wear wooden shoes over there?
Yeah. I mean, not like everybody every day, but like there are still farmers who wear them.
Kind of hard
Yeah.
to sneak up on somebody with wooden shoes on.
Yeah, but like if a cow steps on your foot, it's better. Or
I
like,
see. It's more of a safety.
yeah,
thing.
it's a safety thing, and also like,
Do you put them by the window for St. Nicholas to put candy in them?
yeah,
See? I know about this shit.
you too. I'm impressed.
Thank you.
They're also good because like basically all of the Netherlands is like reclaimed land. Like it used to be ocean, and honestly, it might be ocean again soon. Fingers crossed.
I hope
You
so.
know, I mean, that wasn't what I meant by fingers crossed.
Listen, somebody tweeted today, they were like, whenever I feel bad, I just think in, 3 billion years, the sun will consume the earth. And I retweeted it. I said, not soon enough.
I was like a very anxious child, and I remember learning that the sun would eventually explode and like destroy the earth
Yeah.
in like a billion years. And as an 8-year-old, I like.
You cried yourself to sleep over that, didn't you?
I mean, like, honestly, I think I had already kind of learned how to self-soothe. But I remember, like, talking incessantly.
How do you self-soothe
Well,
as a child?
okay, so this is probably when I was, like, 8
Yeah.
that this happened. When I was, like, 5,
Yeah.
my mom used the expression, planet Earth. And I was like, but planets are in the sky. And she was like, yeah. And I was like, but Earth is where we are. And she was like, yeah. And I was like, so we're in the sky.
We're
And she was
flying.
like-
We're flying through the universe, actually.
Yeah.
Can you
And
believe
she was
it?
like, yeah. And I was apparently inconsolable for like 48 hours. But I don't totally remember that. But I also remember being like, I remember like living in the house we were living in at the time and like telling my friends, like, we're moving right now, even though we can't feel it.
Listen, it is pretty crazy to think about. It's
It's insane.
it's a big nut to crack for a kid. That's for sure.
Yeah, and
it's a lot to digest.
like for most of humanity, nobody knew. Like you grew up and you died and you thought it was just flat and it was fine.
What else did you do as a kid? Like, what were some of your interests?
So I was really, really into history. So I got into history via the American Girl series. I had the dolls, but I was like more into the books.
I see.
Yeah. I think there are probably like 27 American Girls now, but when I was a kid, there were like 6.
That's how I was with Playboy. I was just in it for the articles. I didn't. And, you know, one of my favorite, the Jack Nicholson interview was my favorite.
Oh, yeah? I mean, I really like, have you read, I was just thinking about the John Mayer interview recently.
Is he still around?
I mean, he's still like a corporeal being, but I don't know if he's
What does
like
that
writing
mean?
songs.
What did you say?
Like he's still alive. A corporeal means he has a body.
Look, I get it. And he's bigger than his body.
I guess his body is a wonderland.
Oh.
Ooh. No, he's
You're a big fan of John Mayer?
not really, but I'm a big fan of like the Real Housewives.
No. Oh, you know what? I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah.
I saw your tweet about that the other day.
Yeah.
And what I was going to say was on Twitter, the problem is I saw it like 3 days later. So it always feels weird commenting on something 3 days later.
Oh, go ahead.
But I was going to say on Twitter, I can feel the energy that you put into this tweet. So here's my like. But I didn't even bother. I just said, I said fuck
you should do it now.
No. Mm-mm. I'm not even going to do it.
I mean, should we tell the listeners who might not remember my tweet from a week ago?
Oh, anybody listening to this, please go review all of Arielle's tweets.
I mean, honestly, it's great content.
Some semi-virals.
I mean, no.
You did pretty good on that. How many likes did you get on that? Like 30?
Probably. I don't even remember now.
I don't know.
I recently got like 300 on a tweet that was incorrect.
It doesn't matter. Look, nothing matters on Twitter.
I mean, yeah.
It's the Wild West.
Oh yeah, no. But okay. So the thing is like, okay, this is true. In other countries, not every other country.
I see.
But in most other countries, you can keep eggs at room temperature. You don't have to refrigerate them.
Right, because they're farm eggs.
Right. Well,
they're not like manufactured eggs.
Well, no, so what I had said in the tweet that was factually incorrect was that it's because I thought it was because grocery stores refrigerated them to make them seem fresher.
Right.
And then, like, once they'd been refrigerated, you couldn't unrefrigerate them. But it's actually because the FDA makes people like hose eggs down. And when you hose eggs down, it removes the enzyme that keeps them fresh.
It certainly does.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Did someone correct you, or did you seek out this information?
Multiple people corrected me. And, like, it had, like, the first time someone corrected me, it had 20 likes. And I was like, I'm not going to delete that. That's 20 likes. And I think most people were just blown by the fact that you didn't usually have to refrigerate eggs. But also there were people who got, like, it really inspired anger as well. Not just from people who were like, this is incorrect. And I was like, and I was just like, yeah, it's incorrect. But also from people who were like, where else would I keep eggs? In the pantry? And it's like, yeah. Yeah, that's exactly where you keep them.
Where you fucking keep them. Here's the thing. I worked with a guy who actually had a couple of chickens. Mm-hmm. And so he would give like eggs away. And he would say, you don't have to refrigerate these. You just keep them on the counter or whatever. Because like back in the day, people would have like a little wire thing that they would just put eggs in because they didn't need to be refrigerated. Mm-hmm. And I always assumed like store-bought eggs probably had a bunch of, fucking chemicals and shit on it. So you, and those poor fucking chickens weighed like 200 pounds. And these shit out eggs all day, So I thought it had something to do with that.
Yeah.
Did you delete your tweet?
No, I left it because it already had 20 likes, and then eventually
you should pin it to your tweet and be like, "Go read this shit. Fuck you." That's what you should do.
Eventually I responded to my own tweet, and I was like, I was wrong.
You know what I like to do on Twitter sometimes? I just like to I like to antagonize people.
Yeah.
I do.
You
probably don't look at my tweets, do you?
No, they don't come up that often. Just when you tell people to follow me, that's the only time I see your tweets.
I see how that goes.
It's the algorithm's fault. It's not mine.
No.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
No, it's just you're incredibly self-centered. Yeah, that's the problem.
That's not inaccurate.
I'm absent-minded and self-centered, so if it's not about me, I just forget.
Yeah. No,
I've had some pretty good tweets lately.
Okay, well, I will check them out.
The problem is, though... Yeah, I want you to go review them, if you can.
Right now?
No, not right now. Because
okay. I will look at them after.
I don't want you to be distracted.
That's important, because I am very easily distracted.
No, I like to... people, obviously on Twitter, I have a lot of podcast people that I interact with, mainly. Because the only reason why I have Twitter is because of this podcast.
Right.
And then, so people will, I did a tweet yesterday where I said, people who spend money on making podcasts, why? Because I was curious about what people spend money on. And I know you're a podcast fiend. Whatever the hell that means. So you may find this interesting. But there are people who have podcasts, right? And they spend a lot of money on all kinds of things. Mm-hmm. But a lot of those same people look at podcasting as a money-making opportunity. And I'm very different where I do this. I don't want any money for this. Mm-hmm. I also don't spend any money on this, as you can tell. But, it's just kind of a weird, it's always like an ongoing conversation in the podcast community. Like today, someone's like, who do you guys use for editing? And I said, well, if you get it right the first time, you don't have to edit. But I don't really edit. I told you that when we did round one. I don't really edit because I just don't really feel like spending a bunch of time. And did you go back and listen to our first conversation?
I did, yeah.
So the thing is, I don't think that conversation or this conversation would work if I went in and edited like all the dead space out of it. Mm-hmm. Because then it takes out the natural rhythm of the conversation. And the whole point of this podcast is if you and I are in the same place drinking together and just talking and bullshitting. Mm-hmm. So I want it to sound like how people actually talk. But some people, they edit out like every breath between a word and every breath between a sentence.
Yeah. It sounds like a lot of work.
It does sound like a lot of work. And I kind of just, I don't mind the work, but I don't want to spend a bunch of time editing either, I guess. That's my whole...
it's also like, I'm so charming, it's unnecessary.
That's also very true. When you told me that you were going to have to, you thought you were double booked, I was like, man.
Yeah.
What am I going to do?
What happened was, I woke up and I was convinced it was Wednesday. And I knew I had... Yesterday, I woke up and I thought it was Wednesday. Today is Wednesday. And I knew that I had a Zoom show today. And I knew I had this interview on Wednesday. And I thought today was Wednesday.
Well,
so that's where the confusion came from.
This week has been like 2 weeks long for me, I think.
Yeah?
It has. And here's the thing, too, about the monetization thing. Like last week, I didn't do a podcast. So I feel like if there's a bunch of money on the line, or then you're kind of forced into doing an episode every week.
Right.
And last week we had a lot going on, so I didn't really do it. But I'm recording this tonight. I'm doing another one tomorrow night, actually.
Interesting.
It is interesting.
I'm going to ask you a question, and I know the answer is no, but it's still like socially required that I ask it as the form of the question. Have you ever read Big Magic?
Never heard of it.
So it's a book written by like the Elizabeth Gilbert. She wrote Eat, Pray, Love. I'm sure you've heard of it.
Oh, man. Is that the Julia Roberts movie?
Yes. But Big Magic is like, it's kind of like a memoir, but it's kind of like self-help. Mm-hmm. And one of the things, I don't know, the two advice, her position is like, you should never, early on in your stage as an artist, or maybe in your entire career as an artist, but certainly in the beginning, you should never like require that your art make you money, because that kind of cheapens your art. It's interesting. Yeah. As an artist, you get two very contradictory pieces of advice all the time.
Yeah.
It's either that, like some version of that, or it's like, don't have a backup plan. Just go for it.
Just go. Sell all your shit. And just go be a stand-up comedian during a pandemic.
Exactly. And you're just, well, exactly. Hey, I've made $35 whole from Zoom shows. Actually, it's probably closer to like 80 now.
Well, now, hang on now. You told me you did an outdoor show.
I've done a couple of outdoor, actually like more like outdoor,
like street performing?
No, in parks.
Oh, like a mime thing?
No, I mean, it was stand-up comedy. I didn't become a mime.
You big? No, I know what you do. You go to the park and you make cherry White Claws disappear. That's your act.
I mean, if somebody would pay me to do that.
Have you ever considered drinking alcohol?
Yeah, I'm drinking alcohol now. What do you mean?
What were you drinking last time?
Wine, probably.
What's funny is that when I listened back to that, and I could hear you when you like took a drink, and it sounded like you were drinking out of like a vase or something. Like I could hear.
Oh, it's probably drinking straight out of the bottle.
Bless your heart. It was wonderful. I loved it. It was like a carafe or something, like a biblical vase. Like you were just like.
Okay. I mean, so.
I'm not complaining. I mean,
no. But I will say, I mean, I drank. I don't know why I have this explanation, because I definitely have always drank out of the bottle when you live alone. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
But
I don't live alone. I drink out of the bottle.
Particularly in this apartment, because so New York apartments are not really meant. You're not supposed to be in them 24 hours a day. The whole point.
They're not designed for habitation.
Not really. Like, the whole point is that you live in the quote unquote greatest city on the world. Like like I said, I'm staying in I'm living in a friend's apartment by myself. She's not here.
Do you have to pay? Do you pay to live there?
Not if her housing association.
I don't think they listen to the podcast.
I mean, I don't know.
No, I'm just curious if it was like so she's somewhere else and you pay her to live there.
Yeah. So what? Yeah. So I was starting to tell you this story and then we got distracted.
I know you did.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I always. This is literally
Look,
my state of being.
Arielle,
but yeah.
I mean, this is what we do. This is our act right here.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I moved, I spent a lot of time in New York over the past couple of years. I was sort of half living here, half living in Amsterdam. And then, like, I decided, I was like, it's 2020. I just got to commit to living in one place. And that one place.
New Year, New Me.
New Year, New Me. I mean, sort of. I'm already spectacular. Like, I don't have to change that much.
Put some roots down.
But yeah. And live in one place, and that place is going to be New York, because I want to do live comedy. Yeah. And New York is the best place to do that. Really great timing on my part.
Is it really? Do you think it really is the best place?
To do stand-up comedy,
yeah.
Yeah. Like, if you want to be, like, a television comedian, maybe. I'm saying that skeptically. I still think, like, you're better off starting off in New York. And, like, because, like, okay, pre-pandemic, of course, this is no longer true. But, like, pre-pandemic, you could do stand-up. I mean, I did it, like, 1.5 times a day. But, like, if you tried really hard and you were the kind of comedian who didn't need life experience, you could do it 3 times a day.
Yeah. You mean like 3 different, like, clubs or something?
Yeah, I mean, so, like, open mics you'd start off at, and then you'd start doing some bar shows, and then
like
do some,
5 minutes or something?
Yeah, like 5 to 10 minutes. And I mean, it's like, whereas in, like, for example, in Amsterdam, there's, like, a really growing scene. And again, I don't really know what's happened post-pandemic, but pre-pandemic, if you really hustled, you could get up twice a week, maybe.
I think everybody over there is dead now, so it doesn't matter. The ocean's reclaiming as we speak.
No, they're doing fine.
a lot of open apartments over there, though, from what I hear.
Not just one.
Who do you think?
Yeah, so
I want to ask you this before you get distracted.
Oh, well, this is a distraction, but go on.
No, I know. No, so what do you mean 1.5 times a day?
I mean, like, an average of 1.5 times a day. So sometimes you'd get up 2 times, and sometimes you'd get up 1 time.
So you would go to open mic, put your name on the list, and just go have at it?
Yeah. So, like, for example, in Amsterdam, they have shows that they call open mics, but they're just, like, booked shows. They just mean they're not paying you.
Yeah, pretty much.
Whereas in New York, you have an open mic and you are paying. Like, there's no audience. So it's like, it's better, like, 1 for 1. I think it's a better experience in Amsterdam because usually even at a quote unquote open mic, you'll have, like, an actual audience.
Have you done open mic in Amsterdam?
Oh yeah.
Now,
like hundreds.
Is there like a language issue?
I mean, okay. So there's a big international scene there, like, where people from, like, all over the world, that's what international means.
Thank you. I wasn't sure.
No, I don't know why I was clarifying that. Where, like, people, even if English is not their first language, English is, like, the lingua franca of that scene. Mm-hmm. And you can perform for them. And then, like, most Dutch people do speak English. So when I, like, first started out, and the scene's really, like, exploded. Again, it's probably imploded a little bit recently, but maybe it's growing back, hopefully. Before it really exploded, like, I would go on, like, they'd be Dutch shows. And they'd be like, and now it's a treat. You're going to hear English. Which is like, it's like gaslighting the audience. You're like, now you have to do, like, a little bit of homework.
And now an American broad.
Yeah.
An American do you think, I mean, obviously, I think that, so, it's like if you watch for example, I've never watched, like, an Amsterdam comedy or anything. But, like, a British TV show, the comedy, it's like a little different style, you know? Does that make sense? Is there like a different kind of...
So, like... Yeah. Okay. So, like, again, this is, like, a difference between, like, having like a totally Dutch audience and having an international audience.
Yeah.
But like a Dutch comedy, like for Dutch people, it's very broad. Do you know what? Like,
Are you going to tell me what broad means?
Yeah.
What does international mean again?
Well,
people enter you nationally. That's what they mean.
no.
Which seltzer are you drinking right now?
It's a Bud Light seltzer. It's the last one.
Bud Light is disgusting in any form.
I mean, it's just a White Claw, but like.
No, I live here in Missouri. And you know, like Budweiser is based out of St. Louis.
I didn't know that.
So every like mouth breathing knuckle dragger around here like drinks Bud Light, and it's terrible.
I will say, so American beer is like not great.
No.
But when I was living in Europe, I would like miss it. Like I remember one time, we're so distracted now.
We stay distracted.
Yeah, it's my natural state, so it's fine.
Actually, I was going to ask you about the beer in Amsterdam, as a matter of fact. Because I love beer. I love good beer. So.
Yeah, I mean, Dutch beer is pretty good. Belgian beer is maybe slightly better, but don't tell a Dutch person. They know, but they won't admit it.
They know in their hearts.
But like, one time I was at the Fringe Festival in Edinburgh in Scotland, and because it's like very international,
people can
or at least it was.
If people don't know what that means, they can rewind and listen to the definition.
Exactly.
For those of you just joining us, if you don't know,
if you like fast forwarded through the podcast to this point,
if you listen to this on 3 times speed, you have to go back and listen. Actually, I will tell you something kind of funny.
Yeah.
So, you live obviously in Amsterdam. I know Oktoberfest is a German thing, but that part of the world, it's kind of I think it's kind of a thing, right? Beer and
beer in general. I mean,
here in Missouri, there's a town called Freistadt, Missouri.
Okay.
But it's a place where a bunch of Germans migrated to in the 1800s.
Yeah.
And they have their own Oktoberfest, which I think is
interesting.
Pretty cool. Yeah. I think that's
there's
cool.
a lot of like German immigrants to the south of America, of the United States, that people don't talk about. I just full on burped. I'm not gonna lie.
Good. Let it rip. Let it rip, Tater Chip.
Tater Chip.
You've been crushing seltzers since noon. By
God.
God.
Who said since noon?
I did.
Okay.
Is that not accurate?
I mean, I may have had a seltzer for lunch, but
seltzer. I may have had a seltzer and a rhubarb salad for lunch.
Yeah, that.
Don't you eat vegetables and you're just fucking starving? Like, don't lie. That shit don't fill you up. Get out of here.
I'm not vegan. I think vegan people are better than me. Like, I'm not anti-vegan.
No, but you're vegetarian, right?
Yeah.
So do you eat peanut butter?
Yeah.
I was gonna say peanut butter, man. Peanut butter is we don't deserve peanut butter. Peanut butter is fucking awesome.
Is excellent.
Whenever I'm hungry, but I don't know what to eat, I just eat 2 big spoons of peanut butter and just call it a meal.
Yeah, it's interesting. My mom is a very good cook, and my dad really appreciates it.
That's good.
But I also think
he has to. He has no choice.
Yeah, but if he were left to his own devices, he would just eat peanut butter and jelly for every meal. I think.
Nothing wrong with that. Peanut butter and jelly on wheat. That's like my go-to meal.
It's good. It's good.
It's so good, and it's easy and quick, and it's wonderful.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about this too. I know that you are a stand-up comedian. Mm-hmm. Would you say you're an aspiring stand-up comedian, or you are a stand-up comedian?
I think, no, I am a stand-up comedian. I mean, it's also one of those things.
Look, I'm not trying to be controversial. I'm just curious.
No, it's a reasonable question to ask. It's one of those things where it's not like, I mean, controversial statement, but being a comedian is not like a lawyer.
That is
like, there's no professional accreditation you have to get. Like,
yeah.
Like, technically...
it's like there's no barrier to entry.
Yeah.
Comedian, you know?
Yeah. It's also... yeah, that's why it's kind of like... It's interesting because it's kind of a field that... there's... In a way, there's a lot of social mobility because there's no barrier to entry. So there are a lot of people who grew up really poor who make a lot of money in it. But at the same time, it's also like one of those things that it takes time to get really good at.
Do you think that... Let me ask you this. Mm-hmm. Do you think that people who have, like, anxiety or depression, those kinds of things, those people make pretty good comedians?
Yeah.
And
for sure.
You have anxiety, right?
I mean... I have diagnosed depression, but also probably anxiety.
What kind of depression do you have?
I mean, it's relatively minor. I think, honestly, it's not totally related to my ADHD, but my ADHD doesn't help. But I think that also helps. I think if you see the world from, like... an idiosyncratic perspective, it's easier to be a comedian, right? Like, because a big part of being a comedian is like seeing everyday life and looking at it slightly differently. But that also means that there are a lot of people who are maybe just burped again. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Who are maybe not
actually
funny.
I'm like Oprah. Just let it out.
Oh, I miss Oprah.
No, you don't lie.
Like, what?
I remember when Oprah, had her last show, my grandma cried. I'm like, what a pussy. What are you doing? Why are you crying over Oprah?
I mean, I didn't watch her last show, but like...
Anyway,
pre-controversy.
No, I don't care.
And
about
now,
Oprah.
especially post-controversy.
Wait a minute.
So much better than Ellen.
I don't care about any of that. I want to go back to something that you were talking about because.
Okay. Yes. The more important thing that I was saying.
The more important thing about comedy, because what I was going to tell you is that I was diagnosed with clinical depression. Mm-hmm. And PTSD.
Right.
Not only from the military stuff, but from childhood stuff too. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's interesting because I've watched a lot of stand-up, as we talked about before, and especially someone like Dave Attell, who I think is really funny.
Yeah, so funny.
But are you? I mean, do you think he's funny, or are you just saying that?
No, of course I think Dave Attell is funny.
All right. Well, I never know because I know a lot of male comedians now are terrible people.
I mean...
But I think that, like you were saying, hang on now.
Yeah, keep going.
I think that what you were saying is really good comedians see things through a lens, right? And they process things through that lens. So I think that a lot of comedians, when they do self-deprecation comedy, it's their way of exposing themselves, and people laugh, but they're telling the comedian's telling the truth. But people think but people laugh, right? So it serves two purposes, and I think that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very self-important way of looking at it, but I don't think it's a totally invalid way of looking at it. But comedy has always served a political purpose in terms of showing the faults in like those in power, right? Like
Yeah.
the classic example is like the reason why I'm like laughing as I say this is like it's also like just like so many bros like who will say like totally offensive things, and then if people ever call them on it, they'll just be like, I'm just a court jester, just like showing you the truth.
Oh yeah.
And you'll be like, I don't think that's the truth though. That's the problem I have with it. I don't know. Also not to like be a total downer. I think Dave Attell is very funny and a very talented comedian. He does work a lot with Jeff Ross, and I don't know if you've seen the news about Jeff Ross.
I didn't. What happened to Jeff Ross?
Well, a woman accused him of sleeping with her when she was 15.
Who?
She's not famous.
Oh, I
She's
see.
been accusing him for a while, but
I didn't see that.
yeah, it was just published in Vulture. So
No, I didn't see that.
yeah, people can investigate that on their own. It just felt like an elephant in the room if I didn't say anything.
I'm sorry.
I-
Well, here's the thing, though, is that
No, you don't need to apologize. You didn't know.
I didn't know. But here's the thing, is I try to keep up with a lot of those guys.
Yeah.
Because, as we talked about, I mean, I love stand-up comedy, and I keep up with a lot of stand-up comedians, you know, and I didn't know that about Jeff Ross. I know him and Dave Attell did, the Netflix show they did, I think was really good. They
Right.
were on the road. They just
Yes.
got up and did open mic, basically. It was really, really, really
I mean,
good.
like, it's also, like, complicated, right? Because, like... All right, it's not complicated. It's not okay to sleep with 15-year-olds. That's uncomplicated to me. I want to be very clear.
Well, I mean, I think that the thing is that the problem is, so, like, what's that one guy's name? Chris D'Elia or whatever his name is.
D'Elia.
Yeah, right. So everybody knew he was kind of a creep, apparently.
Yeah.
And then he finally gets called out on it, right? And those kind of things get very complicated because it's like, I'm friends with, you know, it would literally be like, you know, if you and I are friends. Are we friends? I don't know if we're friends or not.
I think we're friends.
We are friends. But then if I found out that you, you know, beat up a kid and took his White Claw, I'd be like, well, she's never done anything to me. I never witnessed that. I mean,
Sorry, that's such a...
I mean,
Yeah.
it's the
I
supply
mean,
chain.
yes.
You know, it's a thing, and I think, and here's the thing, because like I don't know how you feel about Whitney Cummings, but she has a podcast because she, you know, everybody has to have a podcast.
You
But-
say as someone with a podcast.
Yeah, but I'm a nobody. So,
Right.
but she was like, when all that stuff with Chris D'Elia was going on, she tweeted, "Thank you to all the male comedians who tweeted me support in private. I appreciate it." And it's like, I mean, what a bitch. I mean, seriously. I mean, but
I don't know. It can be so lonely, though.
But it's
I mean,
rough, though.
this is the what I was saying before when I was saying it was complicated. And again, I don't think on one level it is so simple. Like if you have sex with children, that's unacceptable.
No,
I don't
that
think
is very
it's complicated.
unacceptable. I'm not.
Yeah, no, and I don't think you think
No.
it's.
Hell no. Fuck no.
But what I mean
no.
by complicated is, I think, like we were talking earlier, there's a relationship between being good at comedy and maybe being mentally ill.
Yeah.
And I think particularly if you're kind of rewarded for having this unique perspective, there's like an incentive to not to not treat it almost. I personally, I think people are still funny if they go to therapy, and basically if you're a comedian, you should probably be in therapy.
Probably.
Like just a thought. Like and I have made a version of this joke, but every once in a while somebody will get up at an open mic and be like, I'm just here because I can't afford therapy. And we're just like, we can't help you though. Like,
no.
You should find a way to get therapy.
I actually was going to name this podcast Cheaper Than Therapy. But
okay.
But it was already taken. So I went with Fat, Drunk, and Stupid. That was my backup plan.
Yeah, well, I'm 2 out of 3. I'm not stupid.
No, I just think, I think it's difficult because in stand-up comedy now, it's almost like landmines. And
I guess.
And the
but
fact that
also
people can dig up shit from 25 years ago.
I guess. I mean, it also depends on what the shit that you're digging up is. Like, is
That's
it
true.
that you said something unsavory, or is it that, not to belabor this example, that you slept with a 15-year-old?
Right. That's not
like
good.
those are different things.
Those are.
I think it's also it's very it can be very lonely as a woman. Like, there are lots of women comedians now, and I think women are funny, but it's still kind of a male dominated field, and it can like when the Chris D'Elia stuff came out, and also honestly the thing that upset me, I don't know if it upset me more, but I really wanted people to comment on more, was there was this clip, we talked about this I think in the last episode about my my semi-viral tweet.
Yes.
Of Joey Diaz talking about how if people wanted to be up on his show, his stand-up show, if they were a woman, they had to give him a blowjob, and then Joe Rogan just laughing at that idea as
Right.
if it was this hilarious joke or whatever, and it's just one thing. I've gotten over. There were specific famous people who said nothing, and I very much noticed that they said nothing. Even people who had never been on who've never been on the Joe Rogan show, I feel in the hopes of maybe being on the Joe Rogan show, didn't say anything. And I noticed that, and it felt lonely. And at the time I was mad at those specific famous people that I don't know, and I guess I shouldn't be that mad at them. But now it's just informed how I react to things where maybe I'm a person in power, as a white person, basically I will I know it can be annoying if a white person is always apologizing for other white people, but I just remember how it felt when as a woman comedian, these very famous, very rich comedians just didn't say anything. I remember how that felt, and now I just am look, if you're a person who is less powerful than me, and you find it annoying that I apologize on behalf of other people who are, for example, white, or for example, well off, I get where you're coming from, and you're allowed to be annoyed at me. I literally can't control that.
Right.
But I know that if I was in your position, I would be more upset if I didn't say anything. And that's the lesson I took from that.
I mean, that makes sense. I mean, I've heard Joey Diaz a couple times, and I think that the problem is with that is I think that people were oh, that was years ago, you know, that kind of thing. So it's almost like oh, that was the 80s, or that was the 90s, or that was whatever, you know.
Right.
And
We don't know how to say the 2 decades after that. I mean, the one advantage that this decade has so far, and like it has been a really shitty decade so far, is that we know what to call it, right? It's the 20s again.
And the thing is too is that I think that like in the 80s, I mean, I watched a lot of stand-up comedy as a kid growing up in the 80s, which is before you were born.
I was born in the 80s, but go on.
You were born in 88?
86.
Oof, 86. God, you're ancient.
I know, so old.
By God. 86. So you're 5 years. So I was born in 81. So there you go. Not bad. But, you know.
We're both young.
We were both very young. So, but, you know, in the 80s, especially in the late 80s, there weren't any female comedians having, like, comedy specials. Mm-hmm. You know. I mean, Eddie Murphy was, you know, he had Raw and Delirious, which I think to me is 2 really great pieces of stand-up comedy, personally.
Yeah, I mean, I watched, I think it was Raw for the first time recently.
Yeah.
And there are, from a modern perspective, there are problems with it.
It's problematic. It is.
I mean, yeah, no, like, yeah, for sure.
It can be. I mean, but that's the difficulty. I think is that if you look through, if you watch something from 1986 or 87, 88, whenever it came out, through a 2020 lens, it's going to be problematic, right?
Well, I guess.
And I will tell you this. Here's a really rough example. When 9/11 happened, I had already signed up for the Army. August 29th, 01, I signed up for the Army, right? So then a couple years ago, you remember everybody was having a big tizzy about the CIA black sites and torturing terrorists and shit, right? So I don't know why that's funny.
A tizzy?
A tizzy, a fucking tizzy. That's a southern
People
term.
were upset about,
Look, a tizzy
rendition.
Look, let me tell you. A tizzy or a hissy fit is a southern term.
I know, but it seems to minimize.
Well, it doesn't minimize. A tizzy is very serious where I'm from. A tizzy is like some real shit.
Well, to me, a tizzy means you're upset about something that's not that important.
We're not talking about Amsterdam. We're talking about real stuff. So, but the thing is,
I'm just trying to clarify terms.
Okay, well, I'm just saying people were worked up about it, but it's hard to look, you know, in the presence of now, to look back at something that happened 20 years ago and apply the standards of now to then. You see,
right?
You see what I'm saying?
Okay, I guess, but like requiring someone to have sex with you in order
it's not right. It's not right.
And it was never right.
No.
Yeah.
And listen, I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying that people wrongfully will say, "Oh, that's just Joey Diaz." You know, that's just how he is.
Right.
Oh,
well,
you know, and people do that to a lot of people. You know, people say, "Oh, that's just how he is." Like you know, somewhere right now, there's a dentist who runs a dentist office who squeezes the asses of the girls who works for him, and they say, "Oh, that's just Dr. Smith. That's just how he is. He's touchy-feely." Right. That happens all the time. You know,
yeah, for sure.
And it's fucked up. I mean, listen, I'm on your side. I mean, aside from the seltzer, I'm on your side, right? But I'm saying that I feel like with guys, you know, they say, "Well, I've never seen that. He's always been cool to me."
Right.
You know,
I think,
but a guy doesn't know what that's like. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, like how you feel seeing that. Like I don't feel the same way because I'm not a woman, so I don't know.
But it's also like, I mean, so I don't think the clip was that old. It was, I don't remember when it was from, but I would guess. I mean, how long has Joe Rogan had a podcast?
Too long.
10 years?
Yeah,
like, not
it's
longer
been a
than
while.
that. I mean,
How do you feel about Tom Segura, like Bert Kreischer and those guys?
I mean, I think I've seen their stuff, and I think some of it is funny. But, yeah, okay. It's also, like, it's really hard to, like, parse, like, for example, I've watched Joey Diaz before. I'd seen that clip on, like, Your Mom's House.
Yeah.
And he was telling a story that was, I mean, because this is another thing that people who were defending Joey Diaz.
I'll tell you the thing about him too is that he's on like a pedestal kind of. You know.
I mean, but like his whole thing is that he tells these outrageous stories.
Right.
Like, and to me, again, I'm not his target market, especially, you know, after he like basically admitted to rape. But like, the way I have always understood his appeal is that he's telling these true stories, right?
Yeah.
And like, I remember, like, I think one of the first clips I ever saw of Joey Diaz was on Your Mom's House, which is
Tom Segura.
Tom Segura's podcast with his
Christine,
wife.
I can never pronounce her last name.
Okay. But she's also a full human being whose name I should remember, and I apologize.
No, it's Christine. It starts with a P, but I can't never.
Yeah.
I can never pronounce it correctly.
And Joey Diaz is telling a story about a time he fingered a woman with a messed up leg after delivering her pizza or something.
Yeah.
And like, if he made that story up, it's not that interesting, right? Like, I can say, oh yeah, I had sex in the hallway with a quadriplegic. For sure, that's the thing that actually happened. And that's not interesting unless that's a thing that I did, which I definitely didn't. I'm worried that I'm being ableist here, and I'm very drunk.
No, just
I want to be like, people with disabilities should have full sexual experiences. Just want to be clear that I feel that way. And yeah. But like, so for then, when the story about him requiring women to go down on him so that he could give them 5-minute spots in the belly room, which I think probably holds like 30 people or whatever.
It's stupid.
But like, it for them to be like, it was just a joke. It's like, but that's not what he does.
Right.
He tells stories. And yeah, if he had been telling a story and he'd been like, yeah, there were guys who came to the belly room and they told jokes and I stole them, Joe Rogan would have like sat up straight in his chair and been like, you need to apologize right now.
You know what's funny about that? Because you know Joe Rogan made a big deal about Carlos Mencia stealing jokes.
Of course.
But he would not do that with Amy Schumer.
Yeah. I mean, so the Amy Schumer thing is also, I mean, like, I don't remember
Here we go.
the details.
Females assemble.
Of course.
No, she did. Apparently she stole jokes, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, like,
But
I get it was a while ago, but I also remember it was mostly her sketch show, which I don't think she actually wrote on her sketch show. Again, I could be wrong.
Probably
But,
not.
like, so then it was just, like, people who wrote for her stealing jokes. Also, a lot of the jokes, like, there is...
Look, if you're going to steal a joke, I mean, at least steal a good joke.
I like Amy Schumer as a person. But my point is that raping someone
Have you
is...
ever met her personally?
Yes, we're best friends.
Are
That's
you really?
why I'm so successful. No.
Well, how do you know that you like her as a person?
No, I don't. Of course.
That
But
was
I mean,
false.
I also don't know Joe Rogan or Joey Diaz,
No.
right?
No, we don't know any of these people. That's
Right.
the thing.
That's the truth. That's the truth.
You don't know any of these
but we
people.
think we do.
Nah, come on. I will also reiterate the fact that I don't listen to Joe Rogan very much.
Right. I mean, if I had to guess, I've listened to more of his podcasts than you have.
You see, I go by the guests. If he has a guest that I really want,
That I used to. I'm done.
you're done now.
Yeah.
Boycott. him.
I'm sure he's devastated.
I was gonna say that'll show him. Fuck
Yeah.
you, Joe Rogan. No, I mean it depends on who the guest is, kind of. You know, I mean, I feel like because the problem
Can
is
I-
with him. What can you what?
I really have to use the bathroom, and I feel like this is going to go on for a while. Can I, like...
Listen, this will go on as long as you want it to go on. If you want it to
Okay.
end, we can just wrap it up.
I don't want it to end. I just want to take a break.
We can take a break.
Okay. I'll be right
I'll tell
back.
you what. You take a break. I'll do some shout outs.
Okay, great.
All right. Go away.
Yeah.
Man, finally she's gone, and I get a word in edgewise. So, the past couple weeks, well, in the past like week or two, I've been engaging with and supporting, obviously, other podcasts and people I'm friends with on Twitter. And I want to give a couple shout-outs real quick. So, at Jim the Dim, I actually won a set of dice. And I don't know what I'm going to do with the set of dice because I don't play D&D, and I have no idea what any of that shit means. But I won the dice from Jim the Dim. Go please follow Jim the Dim. Check him out. Support him. Appreciate it. Also from On Call Pod, my buddy Mike, who runs On Call Pod. I won a mask from him, and it's fucking sweet. I posted a picture, I think, a week or so ago. And I wear that. I've been to Walgreens to get a pack of hot dogs and some beer and some whiskey. And I wore the mask when I went there. So thanks, Mike. Thanks, buddy. He's always looking out for my personal welfare. He's also my on-call medical professional. And I also want to talk about Elysian Fields, the comic. My buddy Michael Oden, he was on an episode a couple episodes ago. Actually, it feels like more episodes. I don't know what episode that was. I should probably know, but I don't. But anyway, he is a creator of the independent comic Elysian Fields, and it's crowdfunded. I supported him. And last week I got the Zero Issue comic. It's a beautiful comic book. It's a holograph cover, and I received two, one of which is signed, which will be obviously a collector's item, and the other for me to read. And I've read it a couple times. Man, it's so good. And I'm going to tell you this about this comic. I got this comic book in the mail, and it was the first one that I got in the mail in a long time. I used to get comics in the mail all the time. Probably 10 years, though, since I got a comic book in the mail. I got it, opened it up. It was on a Friday. It was last Friday.